of the rotation is here, and for our Spanish speaking English now, or is it not? Just so you know, in case uh, the closed captioning is not working properly.
There's a lot of new fans to the show that have no idea what's happening right now.
Today we have as our very special guest the from the Fighting 40th Senate District of South Florida, uh, Deo. Senator, it is so nice to have you here on the show with us today. I know you're kind of busy right now because you just got off a special session, and you are kind of running a campaign right now, as in
Yes, I'm running
running
for
for
governor.
governor.
Yes, and we actually have another special session tomorrow, so go figure.
Oh, you got the third session set up, right?
We are going up to deal with insurance, but we didn't do anything that we should have done during sessions, so we're having to go to special sessions to get these things done.
I can't imagine why you didn't get more done during this session. Was there something else in your way?
All kinds of hateful legislation that had nothing to do with people's real problems, but that's Florida for you, and that's why we're trying to change it.
Well, I'll say this much: there was definitely a lot this session that broke our hearts here on this side of the bay. In particular, a lot of the great legislation that Gary and I and our executive board have been pushing for a few years now. In particular, medical marijuana patients in this state are still being precluded from jobs and fired from jobs. And we had a great employment protection bill that over the years, we've even watered it down just to cover public employees. And we just can't seem to break a daylight to get a hearing, or even when we try to amend it at the 11th hour, just to hear the House GOP shout it down rather than even going on record for a vote was heartbreaking.
Well, that's actually the main reason why we need to make sure that we have a new governor, because what happens, even if we're not in control of the Senate or the House, when you have that veto pen, you have the ability to actually go to them for all those little pet projects that they so like to have in the budget. And you're able to really talk to them and work things out and get them to see the light, as I like to say. And I have been successful in passing some legislation and working across the aisle. But we need to have the power of something in order for us to be able to move these great bills forward. And that is a great bill in the sense that it is unconscionable that people are being punished because they're doing something that is actually legal, that voters said it's legal. And we are telling them that they can't keep their job because these employees are punishing them, and it's completely unacceptable that they haven't gotten with the program, and that our state hasn't updated laws to ensure that people are not discriminated against because they are medically using something that is absolutely legal in Florida. And even ban the box, those boxes are a problem because people who have an incident in the past are being punished as well. So there's a lot of work that we need to do, but there's a lot of work that we can get done. And just like I've been successful in the Senate getting some things done and killing bad legislation, I'll tell you the proudest thing that I am of is killing really bad legislation and being able to walk around and build the relationships and know who to talk to kill some really bad bills. And unfortunately, we have a lot of elected leaders that like to have their name on things or take credit for things. And the best, most effective way to really be effective is to not worry about whose name is on it, to actually do a lot of these conversations privately and knowing and building those relationships so that you know how they really feel. A lot of them agree with us on the cannabis issue, but they are afraid of the governor, and we want to take that away from them so that we can actually move the state forward.
Yeah, whenever you're in DC, people speak what I call DC speak, which means when they're talking about a topic that they're not allowed to talk about, they'll say things like, "You didn't hear this from me, but," and if I were you, I would. which means basically they agree with you, but they can't agree with you because leadership says no. And I see that a lot. Now, Senator Brandes often says that the Senate is made up of like 40 Somalian warlords. And
he's right.
And the House is all top down, follow the leader kind of thing.
Oh, that's like total dictatorship there from the top.
Senator Taddeo, you mentioned that this isn't that a lot of Republicans are actually for this issue, and this is actually something that's been very interesting in the past couple of shows for me, because last show we had Congresswoman Eleanor Norton on the show, and she's a congresswoman over in DC. And she's the biggest thing. She's a woman of few words, first off. But the few words that she got out was the biggest opposition for me legalizing marijuana has been Joe Biden, right? So she's pointing out that this isn't the biggest opposition right now is the biggest Democrat in the U.S. You know, and you being a Democrat in South Florida, you know, I and we talked about my ethnicity a little bit. I happen to know the population of South Florida a little bit. It tends to be a little bit on the conservative side. It must be pretty hard for you to get heard, first off, right?
Well, hard to get elected.
Hard to get elected, of course.
I represent a district that Trump won by 6 points.
Yeah.
So, and I am extremely popular in my district. And the reason why I'm popular and the reason why I've won now twice in this seat, and one of those a special election, which was unheard of. Democrats had never flipped a seat from red to blue in a special election in Florida history, because Democrats come out to vote for president. Democrats come out to vote for big elections. But when there's only one person on the ballot, I'm like, what? There's an election? And so it wasn't expected to happen. But I tell you, one of the reasons that I'm able to do it is because I don't care if you didn't vote for me. I still serve you. And a lot of politicians forget that. They forget that it's really a public service, and you still got to serve everyone. And even when they disagree with you, you can disagree and have an intelligent conversation and get their point of view, but really at the end of the day, make decisions and vote in a way that's better for everyone, not just for you personally, as is the case in many cases. But you are right. Biden really needs to be educated on this issue. And it is something that, look, this is not the only issue where I disagree with him. And I am not shy about speaking out when I disagree. Mm-hmm. And that's what's different about me. I don't care what party you're on. I think that it's really important to be upfront with voters and to tell voters why you feel the way you feel. And I think that just like Barack Obama had to be educated and had to evolve, that was the word, evolve on gay marriage, we need to get Joe Biden to evolve
so
on
let
this
me ask
issue
you,
for sure.
Kano, my friend over there, spends a lot of time trying to educate Democrats on this issue, especially Democrats that are, of course, are against marijuana.
That's why we call them the hammer.
As somebody who's in a district that you're pretty much you're everything's stacked up against you, right? How can we be heard? What's the best way to educate Democrats and liberals that have this issue?
And especially in your district, now that the folks from the Pan Boat Lift are starting to get older, and there are more younger folks coming up, is there a evolution in the Cuban population to be more moderate than they were before? And less Reaganite?
Yeah, well, it depends on the issue. I will tell you, it depends on the issue. I think some issues for all of us Hispanics that had to flee our original countries, some issues are very personal and bring back bad memories, which is why Republicans have been so successful in calling and in succeeding in races when they call a Democrat a socialist or a communist. In my case, they called me a socialista, comunista, and a terrorist sympathizer. And they didn't succeed not only because I speak the language, but I speak the culture, and I have the experience, the personal experience of having to one day be buying uniforms for the next school year in Colombia, and the next day on a plane out to Alabama, of all places, fleeing because my father was kidnapped by the FARC, a terrorist group. So these are the stories and the issues and the way that you push back on these ridiculous attacks. But I will tell you that when it comes to other issues, again, like I said, you guys said it. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. You find people all over the spectrum who support the legalization of cannabis. And I think that it's really important that we understand that is something that brings us together, that brings more people to the table. And it's really in a state like Florida where decisions are made by such tiny margins. It really is a shame that we are not trying to bring more people to the table. And I do represent an area where Biden had the worst collapse of Democratic history. He did 23 points less in Miami-Dade than Hillary Clinton, 15 points less than Andrew Gillum. And this is the reason why I say we need to make sure that as Democrats, we nominate for the governor someone who can, first of all, fight back the socialism attacks, but also get a lot of the Hispanic vote that has hemorrhaged from the Democratic side because they scare them with these kinds of issues, the socialism kind of attacks.
I just want to say the cojones it takes for the Florida GOP to call you a terrorist sympathizer when your father was kidnapped by FARC, and yet they don't have the cojones to stand up to the governor and pass a bill to protect medical marijuana patients from being denied organ transplants or being kicked out of their nursing homes or being precluded from jobs. It just astounds me to the spinelessness of the opposition that you have. And Senator, you accept it with grace and you redirect those attacks into positivity. So we appreciate you standing strong.
Well, I'm so glad you just used that word because I don't know if you know, but I actually have coined something in Tallahassee. It's called the Cojones Caucus.
Hey.
And I have to say there's very little membership. So unfortunately, I haven't had much success getting a lot of people to join it. But it really, for example, what we just had, the situation with the last special election where the governor decided to draw the maps and totally delete African-American representation from the state of Florida in an unconstitutional manner, not only at the federal level, but in the state where voters clearly voted for the maps not to be drawn in a political way to benefit one party or the other. And so I was just like, I boycotted it actually. And I said, I will not be a part of something that is completely against the oath that I took, because my oath was not to the governor. My oath was to the Constitution of the United States and the state of Florida. And I wanted others to realize how unconstitutional this was. And I asked them to join the Cojones Caucus. At that point.
I like it.
The Democrats in both houses, they fought so hard against it between the sit down in the House and everything else that you guys had worked so hard to reverse. I know you worked hard to reverse HB5. It's like everything you were doing is like digging ditches in the rain. Whenever you try to get one victory, they go ahead and they dig another hole that you've got to go after again. And
well, I like to say that Tallahassee has a hearing problem. The voters speak loud and clearly. They vote for medical marijuana. They vote for the minimum wage. They vote for restoring the rights of those formerly incarcerated. All these things we vote out. Our environment, buying our lands back. All these things we vote, and then they turn around and go, well, they didn't really understand what they were voting for. So we need to really clarify that now you got to pay the fees so that a person who's already served their time in order for them to vote, you got to do this, you got to do that. I mean, they just put all kinds of parameters in the way, and really it's very unfortunate that they have such a hearing problem, because voters knew what they were voting for when they passed all those amendments.
When you look at the website for the Senate or for the House, they'll always say, a bill died in this committee, a bill died in that committee, or this got enrolled and that actually went forward. They should have an extra column saying this bill is still in litigation after signature, because it happens so often.
We spend so much money fighting in court bills that they know will fail. they know they're unconstitutional. They know they're wrong, and they still try to push and push and push. It is really unbelievable to me that's all they do. And we spend so much money. Talk about taxpayer dollars looking out. Nah, not them. They spend a ton on fighting unconstitutional bills.
Well, Senator, what? Go ahead, Carlos.
Well, I mean, you're on a marijuana talk show, right? You're running for governor against two candidates who are for the legalization of marijuana. I have to ask you, what makes your stance on marijuana better than your opponents?
I don't think there's much difference between our Democratic opponents. I think we all agree on this one and most issues. So I don't think it's a matter of differences. I think.
Well, let me get deeper then, right?
Yeah.
So you tweeted on 420 that you're for decriminalizing as well, right? And quite honestly, like a lot of people pose us with this question: after legalization, what are you guys going to do? What's going to happen to Suncoast Normal? Well, but that's like the biggest time. That's the time when we have to go and figure out how to implement and work with lawmakers and things like that. How can you see that system being implemented?
Well, I actually will tell you, I do have a record of fighting. I've been on the Criminal Justice Committee the entire time that I've been in the legislature. And this is actually, I've been on there with Senator Brandes. And we're actually, it's like two peas in a pod, but we, it's really interesting because he's much more of a libertarian. But we're very similar in the sense that we both are willing to stand up even to our own party when something is not right. And but when it comes to the criminal justice system, we need to bring justice back into the criminal justice system. There is no justice when you're seeing so many people in jail for a minor possession, where in many cases now you just get a fee. And as you should, instead of going to jail. It's crazy, but we have people, because we have all these laws that passed a long time ago, 3 times and you're out. That kind of attitude of in order, politicians wanting so badly to get elected, and yet here we are paying the price. And I do mean this. Sometimes we forget to talk about the business case for why also this needs to be done, because we are spending a tremendous amount of money holding people in jails that should have never been there to begin with. And we spend over $60 a day, $61 to be exact, to keep these people incarcerated. And in many cases, there's a private business making money of incarcerating people. And most of them are Black and brown. So as somebody who's a Latina, who really, it says it's not okay. It's not okay that kids' entire futures are damaged because of something that, by the way, a white kid usually doesn't get arrested. They don't even call the cops at the school when there's like a fight or a problem. But the Black or Hispanic kid, guarantee you, they're going to
zero tolerance.
Yep. Yes, yeah. And it really causes all kinds of systemic problems for generations. And we haven't really invested and thought of our budget as a way for us to invest in the future and future generations, and a brighter future for everyone, not just for those well-connected. I mean, most of us can't afford a lobbyist in Tallahassee, but those are the people who have the power. It's not okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of well-connected, and Gary, I'll let you go in a second. Go ahead. The existing medical marijuana treatment centers, the way that the Big Five or the original 5 even got their licenses, has come out through court cases. People have gone to jail, including Tallahassee city commissioners, including the spouses of some of the largest MMTCs in the state, and so. Like you said, the average person can't afford to have a lobbyist, can't afford to buy politicians. And so as we move forward, how do you feel about the current vertical integration structure in Florida? Do you believe that it should be broken up and allow for mom and pop businesses to come in here? Or do you believe that Florida's current system is working just fine?
Oh, no, I think we should allow more. And And frankly, I think it's wrong that we don't allow people to grow in their own homes. I mean, if I can grow my tomatoes, why can't I grow marijuana? So, I mean, people should be able to again, if we are about freedom and we're going to be the freest state in the country, let's have some real freedom. It's completely unacceptable that we don't. And that is the problem that we have with Tallahassee and the power that is
Senator,
money.
you just said the magic words for most marijuana activists in the state. Grow at home is one of the biggest issues for us. Thank you so much for saying that.
And I did have a home grow bill that was a good portion of people. I brought it up to Senator as a libertarian. He did some great bills, including that a great expungement bill and everything else, which brings me to the next question.
Sponsor of the expungement bill. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because we would like to see it much easier to get things expunged as opposed to having to pay thousands of dollars, which is what it is currently. And of course, if you go to a clemency board, well, that's a joke anyway, because they rarely even meet anymore. And when they do, how often do they actually offer clemency? There seems to be an impasse there.
Yes. I think we need to totally clean that up, and absolutely. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that people have, after they serve their time, they have to go through so much. And it's not just about the clemency; it's also about getting a job. I will tell you that, you know, one of my bills was specifically about the fact that in jail we were training people to be an electrician or a plumber, but then they would get out and they weren't allowed to get the license. And so it's like, how do you get a job? And then we wonder why we have recidivism and people just going right back to jail. I mean, come on. It's again, business case. Let's talk about what makes sense for a society.
Well, another thing about business is the fact that the better businesses have better products. And we have an industry right now which had a lot of inexperienced growers who got involved in the industry, or we're not really even in the industry at all, like some of them were at the very beginning. So they had no clue as to how to properly grow good medicine. And the people who did know oftentimes have been incarcerated and have been blocked from being able to get into the industry. So the only way to get really good stuff is to find folks in the legacy market, as we call it now, who really care about their product and who personally get it legally. And of course, if we try to even get that medicine, we're breaking the law too. So that's another big business thing. I know that we're
Gary,
it actually the end of our time here, but
that goes back to what the senator said earlier about the people vote for Amendment 2. We put it in there, and then the Florida GOP, which controls the House and the Senate and the governorship, which we're working. The senator gets elected, and we could flip that into general, would be great. But here's where we're at: is that the people passed Amendment 2, and then the Florida GOP put in this stupid rule that you have to pass a level 2 federal background check to work in a Florida MMTC. And it's like, well, it's hard to pass a background check if you have experience touching this plant during Prohibition. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. So it goes back to sticking by what the essence of the voters want, and that is where the disconnect is with elected officials in many ways. Senator, we're glad that you get it. We've had a slew of guests on who understand it, regardless of what side of the aisle they're on. So as we get ready to close out, let you go knock doors and make more phone calls and go to all the campaign events that you got set up for the weekend, could you share with the folks, any parting thoughts or how you feel, or any changes that you're willing to step up and stand on now as our future governor?
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm delighted to be with you guys, and I look forward to coming back so we can continue the very fun conversation. I just want everyone to know that really, for all of this to happen, we actually have to win. And what we have seen is that if we, not just in Florida, but everywhere, all across the country, we keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, that is exactly what we get, the same result. And in Florida, it's going to be very difficult to beat this governor. And it's going to take us really looking at how do we create the coalition of voters in order for us to win. And that includes bringing back many people that have left the Democratic Party or have not voted for Democrats. We need to have a candidate that can actually bring that coalition of voters for us to win. And I am that candidate. the only parent in the race with a kid in public school, and a Latina, yes, that can speak the language and the culture, and that can bring all those voters across the state, that many of them actually stay home. And we need to give voters someone to vote for and not just someone to vote against. And when it comes to cannabis, I am originally from Colombia, something that was, I actually grew up where this is a bad thing. But clearly, all of it, all of the education, the advancements have changed, and the public is with us. The public agrees that we need to legalize it, and we need to make sure that people have the ability to use it, and that people should not be going to jail and should be completely taken out of jail, that were put there for things that they should have never been put there to begin with. I will be that governor. Go to AnnetteTaddeo.com. Look forward to having your support.
Y tiene un buen día, chica.
Gracias.
Thank you very much, Senator. The best of luck to you on your campaign.
Thank you,
Senator.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Annette Taddeo, senator from South Florida and Democratic candidate for governor of the state of Florida. Definitely a refreshing breath of fresh air when compared to Ron DeSantis, who can't stand the smell of the putrid marijuana. Right?
Yeah, right. Like what the hell? How does that even work out? He starts off like, I let you guys smoke it, but it smells horrible.
Yeah, but you know something, Governor? He who smelt it dealt it. Okay.
I'm just saying, you know, the Harvard boy might not be as clean cut as everybody thinks he is. So, but you know, the senator did touch on an interesting point, and that is that only 2 in 10 Americans support the criminalization of marijuana, according to recent national polling data from YouGov.com. And then, you know, looking at overall, there is a significant balance. I was looking at another poll the previous week. 78% of Democrats support this compared to 54% of Republicans. Now, there's a majority in both parties that support this. It's just a matter of the disconnect between the elected officials, and we've touched on it. There's a disconnect between the top Democrat, and there's disconnects between, you know, all the top Republicans when it comes to this issue. But what we're seeing on a state by state basis is a lot of change. We've seen employment protections for medical marijuana patients passed in Republican states like Utah, most recently Louisiana. So if these GOP states can get their shit together, why can't the Florida GOP get their shit together? And for all you people out there who hate Democrats, who hate socialists, or whatever moniker you want to use, communists, look, plain and simple, the Republicans are not on your side when it comes to this. You need to vote their ass out of office and primary them with people who are actually going to step to the plate and do right by the voters.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we've got a lot of work to do, because right now our legislature, 66% the GOP, and I can't see it going the other way in any way near the future. So we're going to have to find a way to get some kind of bipartisan support to get anything to go, because if you got an issue that is 79% in favor of, I think any of those candidates would love to have 79% of the vote, but they're willing to go with some fraction of their base to continue on with this prohibition, and it just is not working for us.
Well, you know, what's interesting enough is in other states, they are advancing legislation that eliminates marijuana possession penalties. In Delaware, for example, this week, the House voted 26-14, and the Senate voted 13-7 to advance the legislation. Virtually all the Democrats voted for the measure, while the majority of Republicans voted against it. And, you know, they're still pending on whether or not they're going to pass a bill to legalize and regulate the retail sale of marijuana in the state of Delaware. But, it just makes sense with Maryland having it voting on the ballot this November, going to the voters. New Jersey already has, adult use. New York has adult use. And then, looking at Rhode Island, most recently, their lawmakers passed a bill out of committee that will advance adult use legalization. So what we're seeing is that the Eastern Seaboard, from Virginia all the way up to Maine, is slowly becoming more and more of an area where there's no more prohibition, much in the way we see the West Coast. So.
And we would love to see some of those gubernatorial candidates from other states like Georgia and like Texas, who are struggling to get their feet wet as far as the cannabis market is concerned. And so maybe we'll see. We can't try to get some of those folks on here as well, because I think as a unified block of states, I think we've become even stronger.
So well, you know what, Gary, when it comes to candidates that support this, one of the most outspoken advocates for marijuana legalization this election season was John Fetterman, who has won the Pennsylvania Senate primary for the Democratic nomination. And his opponent was a Democratic establishment candidate. And if you looked at their endorsements, they had like a whole page of endorsements. And Fetterman literally had NORML and like a handful of other groups. And he dusted this guy. And, you know, I think that's ideally what we need is to elect more insurgent candidates, more candidates that are willing to stand up to the establishment. You know, Senator Taddeo is clearly is not an establishment candidate when it comes to this issue here. And we've already had Commissioner Nikki Fried on the show, and actually looking forward to having the other Democratic candidate for Governor Charlie Crist on the show next week.
Oh, man.
So
didn't she run with Charlie Crist?
Yeah, they were running mates in the last election.
Completely forgot to ask her about that.
The first time I met her was at the time that they opened up their office in West Tampa. Carlos, who were there at the same event, and I brought my wife over, and we met Senator Taddeo at the time when she was running for lieutenant governor. Yeah, that was the very experience.
What? So I was working.
Guys, we didn't get to do this at the beginning of the show. I don't really understand how the show structures are happening today.
It's a little bit different. We had to kind of adjust to the schedules of our people coming on today.
Well, I still wanted to press the button. Oh, but I'm sorry, Ken.
You'll have another chance yet.
You were in the zone there, and I interrupted you.
It's all good. No, actually, I was just going to share a funny story. I was working on the Chris Taddeo campaign in 2014 because the option was Rick Scott, and it's like, well, fuck that guy.
Yeah,
you know. So of course I supported, worked on that campaign. But I remember going. We were in Belmont Heights. And Bill Clinton was giving a speech. So there's Secret Service everywhere. And before the senator goes on stage, she handed me her car keys and her water bottle. And she goes on stage to give her speech, introduce Bill Clinton. And I went to, after she gave her speech, to run up to the stage to give her keys and water bottle. And Secret Service goes, freeze! And I was like, oh shit, I almost got shot. Because you just can't run up. You just can't run up on stage when there's a president on stage, or a past or present, you know? So regardless of who you're working for. So that was just a funny tidbit anecdote I have. But what I wanted to do next was, you have your segment with with Chillum Scrutiny. Gary has had a couple of segments, Moment of Clarity in the G Spot. But I actually wanted to take the time today to start my own segment, and it is Black Market or Booth is the name of the segment. And so today I am going to compare some legal cannabis from the state of New Jersey and some gray market legacy cannabis from Washington, D.C. And so this is what we have here is this is from the Botanist in New Jersey.
Acreage.
And this, owned by Acreage. Acreage actually has John Boehner, former Speaker of the House, as their lobbyist, right?
Yep.
Yeah, well, this is a Sour Triangle Wookiees, and it has 16.7% THC. And it also lists the terpene profile, has caryophyllene, myrcene, limonene, and linalool in it. And so what I want to do is take the time to compare and see what it tastes like versus what we have here in DC from Butterflies, which is peanut butter breath. And, the packaging just in itself between the legal market and the adult use market. I mean, look at all this plastic they're wasting in one bottle versus these Mylar bags. And then also, all this fine print here almost seems like you're trying to fool somebody. But, you can see it very clearly here in the DC stuff. This legacy market, gray market, even has more THC percentage. Lists, the different side effects that you can feel and such. And so it even, is it an indica? Is it sativa? And so I wanted to take the time to see which one tastes better. Well, first off, let's look at the buds. Well, here for the New Jersey one, right, here's the buds here. They're really compact, Let me put my light on so folks can see a little bit better. They're really
By the way,
compact.
A little piece of
Kano
broccoli.
is in an undisclosed location. We have no idea where he is.
Yes. All right, and then we have the buds here from and yes, Gary. Yeah, don't go putting my address on for the fans to kick in the door, right? So
I mean, it says that you're in Washington D.C.
yeah, which is totally legal, right? And then this is
I
the
know that
DC
Grady
stuff.
Judd watches our show. That's an important thing to know.
Well, Grady, I'm in a legal location, so you can bite the big one. So this one here is the legal stuff.
The big
This one here,
Grady.
this one here is the DC. So on first glance, you're wondering, well, this one looks kind of frosty, looks all right, but in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't get you as high as you might think. And so when we say don't sell me no booth, it seems like that's what we're getting from the legal ones. But you know what? The only way to truly understand it is to do a taste test. And I would love to do a taste test if I had a lighter. My love, is there a lighter around here somewhere? Like, how is there not a lighter here?
Hi, Anise.
No, not booth. Booth.
Lighter.
No, it's it should be Black Market versus Booth. That's what I wanted to call it segment.
Black Marketer Booth.
Black Market versus Booth.
Versus
Crossfire.
I thought
Without
I
Tucker
was
Carlson.
quick with the caption,
Well,
I was impressed.
It's scary.
So this is the New Jersey stuff. This is the Sour Triangle Wookiees.
Is it South Jersey?
South Jersey. Where did we find this?
I get the feeling that the black market's always going to win in these segments.
Well,
This is a rotation. You get to pass that.
yeah. There you go. There you go. But
Somehow it lags.
the booth, the legal stuff here that we got from Jersey, it has a funny taste, like a little bit of a charcoal taste almost. It does have a white ash though, so it does look like they flushed it well, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't get you as high as what we got here. Here's the peanut butter breath, which is the black market stuff, gray market. That's what we were talking about last week with Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, is that DC could have adult use sales if President Biden would just get the hell out of the way and allow the rider, which she worked so hard to get bipartisan support for, to move forward and allow adult use sales. But here we go this is the peanut butter breath from Butterflies, which is 20% THC. And just off the first hit, it has a much cleaner taste. You could taste the terpenes in it. It has a really herbal, piney taste to it, kind of woody.
So
But all in all, I got to say the black market wins on this taste test, on this review this week. So,
well, when you feel that taste that charcoal, it usually has to do it with a reduced amount of moisture in the bud. Because you
can see how
than you are terps.
Yeah, because these buds here are so compressed, in the corporate booth. I mean, they look frosty, but it looks like they just sucked all the air out of them. Versus the ones from Butterflies, the black market ones, they're fluffy, and you can see, in between them and such.
A lot of times, the folks in the black market are using what is called quick freezing, and it locks the moisture in. And some of them even are freeze drying it now, so it really does lock in the moisture. And so therefore, you maintain that the terpenes and all that bit, and the trichomes are still there. Where the trichomes have been crumbled away, and you've got more wood there, then that's what you get.
Yep. Well, I gotta say, black market wins the day this week. Versus Booth. DC does have some pretty good stuff. I this right here is one sticker for this 8th. So, and I have a plethora of stickers over the past 3 years. So
a plethora of piñatas. Okay,
You do speak Spanish.
There's because I said piñata.
Piñata. Look it up on Babbel.
So a few things I find interesting here, right? First off, right, the MMTs were picked because it was merit based. They were supposed to be the ones that could be, the most ethical ones.
That's
the best medicine,
yes.
right? best medicine, grow the best medicine. We've often found that their product ends up being poorly grown and constantly full of mold and pests, all these issues with it, and definitely doesn't taste as good as shit you could get from somewhere else. You're passing it to somebody who you're passing it to. Okay, so to hear you say that the black market,
It's not the
right?
dog, I'll tell you that.
It feels cleaner and tastes better, right? Is really such a letdown because like that I'm not necessarily sure where you got that legal cannabis from.
I got it from
But
the botanist in New Jersey.
in New Jersey. All right. So these guys, not only are they chosen because like they're supposed to be able to do what they do, but they should be required to test their product, right? Where black market, of course, you're not going to have to test it. So like it should be required that tastes better regardless and cleaner regardless. So this just upsets me that I'm not growing cannabis right now and I'm not selling cannabis, and these guys are because they got FBI investigations on them, and it just fucking sucks.
Now,
Yeah,
interestingly,
I like your segment, Keno, but what it makes me think of sucks.
Well, that's a great point, right? How the
It made me
fuck does
sad.
the legal market have FBI investigations on them? Like, come on, man. What the fuck are y'all doing?
The argument is that I wasn't chosen not because I don't have the money to do it, right? And also because I don't have the ethics for it, right? I actually applied to work at True Leave, and I was turned down because I couldn't pass the background check because I had a DUI back in the day.
and I was turned
Right.
down because they told me I was too rogue. I wouldn't be a corporate person, so they politely told me they were going to go in a different direction.
Well, in my
direction they're going in, by the way.
You
In
wouldn't,
my
you wouldn't keep them ethical. You would keep them ethical, basically.
I guess.
in my very first meeting with the CEO of that organization, I told her to stop buying cheap vape pens from China that leak, and I told her that to her face. And after that, we haven't said two words to each other. So.
Some people don't take well to criticism.
I mean, I just thought from a patient point of view, patients that come to me, they showed them to me, that people complained about them. They told me about the taste, the heavy metal taste. And then, you know, I was on LinkedIn and I saw, you know, and I get these LinkedIn things from people in China in the cannabis industry. And, you know, they want to sell these vape pens. And then I understood and it clicked. I was like, oh, wow. So I bet you these folks, again, who didn't know anything about the cannabis market, are who just know about business, treat it like a business, and then you wonder why they're getting these cheap vape pens from these Chinese knockoffs, right? It's not like it's made in America. It's not like they're getting safe, tested products. It's not like they're contributing to jobs here at home. So it's, you know, it is upsetting to think that is also becoming a standard because of the size of that organization, that they're now a multi-state operator, when in fact here it all started because they managed to buy a couple of politicians, and due to corruption is how they got into the game.
Now, I'm not a big fan of MSOs, multi-state organizations, but I got to tell you, it really does change as to where their origin was at. Like, for instance, we have Jungle Boys and we have Cookies coming and we have Planet 13 coming. And these guys have actually done an excellent job in their legal markets in other states where they've had a chance to hire the good help, so to speak, to help grow their stuff. And so this is the kind of stuff that we hope to see in our future. We hope to get Ivan on from Jungle Boys to sit there and discuss this thing. But we may have some product out there that actually has come from more knowledge in regards to the importance of a good grow. You may have to pay a little more because of the way our market is working right now. But hopefully we'll see those kind of things change.
Well, you know, Gary, here's the thing. Let's also run the price points. So for this legal, you know, booth that I got here, I paid $54 and some change, plus the taxes. So I'm walking out spending over $60 for this.
What's
you know how much I spent? You know how much I spent for this? $25. Same amount of flour. Okay, this one has more THC, $25. This one tastes better, $25. But this booth here, over $60. Now in Florida, people are paying over $70 for True Booth or whatever you want to call that shit.
This is an unsolicited opinion, right?
My opinions do not reflect those of our board and our members, but I will speak for myself and say that shit is egregious.
I say fuck it. I don't think we could ever get a True Leave sponsorship. And then he said something.
Not that we don't need sponsorships, guys.
I don't think we could accept it. Like, could we accept it?
If you wanted to, by the way, guys, if you want us
That's
to
a
discuss your
good
product
question.
on air, we have no problem with you trying to sponsor us. But,
Yes.
but accept the fact that we are going to be honest in our evaluation.
Thank you, Gary. Because we are a patient-centric organization, and we are always going to be the advocates for the people, for the patients. And we want to see our mission very clearly is for safe access for all responsible cannabis users. What does safe access mean? Well, first part of that is safe, meaning it's clean, meaning it's legal, meaning you don't go to jail for it, meaning you don't lose your job for it, meaning your life is not interrupted for using it. The second part is access, meaning it's affordable. Hell, if I had it my way, I was president of the United States, your fucking medical insurance would cover this shit if you had a doctor's recommendation. All right.
Well,
as a matter of fact, workers' comp is one of the fastest growing sectors of covering medical marijuana insurance, and it has to happen by court case so often. So what I want to see here in Florida is folks who require medical marijuana for injuries to be able to litigate and take their cases. I want to see some lawyers in this state step up for those folks, because there's no excuse why medical cannabis shouldn't be covered under workers' comp when it covers opioids, which causes addiction. Makes no sense to me.
And we are going to cover in a little bit deeper sense what's going on in D.C. when we do have Congressman Christ on, because I would like to hear what he thinks is going on in the House right now, because we have so many bills that we are hoping will go forward and actually get a chance to be heard in the Senate at least, but we have to get them through the House first. And D.C. is just a mess right now. Federal legalization, there's a battle going on. I think you should, however, go ahead and check our archives out and listen to the conversation that we had with Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
Yes,
she is a Republican who has the bill called the States Reform Bill, which has some amazing things in it and a lot of the things that the people have been looking for. And she's trying to push it in a bipartisan manner, which is what we had hoped for, because we aren't partisan here. We just want the truth.
I was looking through our archives earlier today, and that is probably our most underrated episode. Like, that was one of the coolest episodes that
it was. It was.
Yeah,
I mean, she was what? She had death threats to start out to delay the episode, then almost got in a car accident during the episode.
Yeah,
it was wild. And she stuck through the whole thing. Like, as a congressperson, she could have blew us off,
Yeah. And just like this, I was blown away at the time. Like, right now, a Republican saying the shit she said, I probably won't be so impressed. But I was like, holy shit, this woman is just speaking the truth.
But she totally fit into the organic feel of this programming that we have here, which means we just wing it from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this much: what we've had recently is to go to show you that the guests, the members of Congress we had on. They don't look the same. They don't come from the same generation, same demographics, same regions of the country. And they both, Congresswoman Nancy Mace and Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton, both had the same stances in that this should be legal. People shouldn't be going to jail for it. People shouldn't be losing jobs for it. If we're going to call this a medicine, which we are, which it is, then why isn't it treated like every other medicine?
And Mace is from South Carolina, which is one of those states like Florida where people are constantly asking what the hell is going on there and why is it happening?
Well, I mean, look, South Carolina was the first state to secede from the Union in the Civil War. So they, when people say what the hell is going on there, that's been a 200-year headline, Gary. So
they're always in competition with Florida to be the craziest state. That's all.
I mean, yeah. Pretty much. I mean, both states have a lot of similarities. Both states have white supremacist domestic terrorists that like to shoot up people. But the difference in Florida is he'll probably have a pet alligator in his pickup truck and not have a shirt on. The other, and then, while the ones in South Carolina are like choir boys and shit. So, just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Look, that's something that when we talk about, we don't want to get into politics, but very clearly, Normal itself is a civil rights organization.
We want
And
to get
so-
into politics.
Well, look, people always say that, right? Because what we mean by that in modern culture is, oh, let's not get into politics, is we don't want to have conflict and confrontation. But the truth is that these issues require direct conflict and confrontation, because there is nothing more confrontational and conflicting than having your day fucked up by a cop who can whip your ass and throw you in cuffs and write up paperwork that can ruin your life, all because you want to smoke this.
Well, we are almost out of time for this particular segment of the show. However, as a programming note, our next guest in this triple play today is Dan Hare, who is the son of Jack Hare, who is not just a strain. He was actually a person. And we're going to learn about the legacy market back in the day and how we got here through somebody who's been there all along.
Yeah, I was about to say, I already feel like we've done an episode. I think we need a break. So
Yeah, indeed.
so
Well, we'll
Give
be
us
back
the
here
feedback.
shortly.
just real quick, I just want to say join Suncoast Normal. Go to our website.
Coastnormal.org, and you can get a pin like this.
And a membership card.
There you go. Okay.
And 25% off at Chillum. So it's worth it.
So
And God's grace.
So everybody watching us right now, we'll see you in 30 minutes.